So, hello and welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Pascal Floor, and on the other end, it is Steve Hall. After 2 weeks of a layoff, kind of for you guys, it wasn't because we still pre-recorded the episodes so that you have us on a weekly basis. But for us, it was 2 weeks. And 2 weeks, especially for Steve and his contest prep at the moment, is a very long time. And that's why this time around, we are probably not going to answer any kind of questions again, but more so just talking. And Steve, without further ado, let's delve straight into your contest prep. I would like to know your current situation. How are you feeling? What's training like? What's the plan now? Has anything changed, etc., etc.?
Cool. So, yeah, has anything changed? I don't think anything has changed in 2 weeks. So I took, when was it? I'm in just finishing up week 3 of this mesocycle. So I have tomorrow and Saturday, and then I'll be into week 4. And that means I'm basically 3 weeks since I had my deload and diet break. I took 2 refeed days in my second week of the mesocycle on the Monday and Tuesday. So I'm like 10 days into low days again. But my low days haven't changed. They've been exactly the same throughout the whole of prep, basically. Which is cool. The weighted vest has been, since starting this mesocycle, I think 10 kilos for 10 hours basically, and 10 hours of my day I'm stood. So yeah, I take it off at like 5 p.m. and I put it on at normally actually I've been waking up before 7 a.m. because you tend to wake up earlier and earlier in prep and dieting. Like you just are like, I'm awake and now I can't sleep. So my sleep has actually been pretty good, which is good. Sleep's been good. I would say I found myself getting more irritated more easily, just generally. Okay. I can just notice it. But it's
when did you notice
terrible.
that? When you're watching Love Island?
Probably Love Island's been really shit, by the way. It's so boring at the moment. Like nothing's happening.
I'm watching The Bachelorette, and it's an amazing season this time.
So yeah, I think actually I need to check out The Bachelorette. I'll have to check that one out. Me and Charlotte will enjoy that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think nothing too much has changed. I still have a semblance of a libido. Everything's probably come down slightly. Holding performance in the gym is getting a little bit harder. I'm still doing it, but it's getting a little bit harder. My sleep took a hit last week, but it picked back up at the end of the week. I saw 2 new lows at the start of this week. And so my sleep's been good.
Where are you sitting at right now?
So my average this week, I think, is like 175 or 175. Okay. I mean, just below 175. The lowest I've weighed in, I think, was 173.6 or something.
Yeah.
So compared to my lowest last season was like 163 or something. So I'm still like 10 pounds above last prep, which is crazy. But good. And I actually had a consultation with Brett Freeman just to talk about my position. Like he's someone who obviously great guy, really he's been there to the leanest condition and he's held that for a long period of time. And he's dug through from where you're stage ready, and he's got further than stage ready. He's further than, so I just wanted to talk to him what he thought of my position, how he thought things were, kind of take him through what my timeline was. And he was it was really cool. He was like, I agree with a lot of the stuff that you're saying that you're going to do. He thought I was being very rational in my current position, considering. So that was good. Just a bit of a confidence booster that things are going in the right direction. I still clearly have body fat to remove, across the hamstrings and glutes, I do, but I'm definitely matching levels of condition since my last prep, which is great. So anything here is completely new territory. So yeah, no changes steps, cardio, that's all stayed the same. The biggest change probably is I've removed body hair, which is probably the most annoying thing you have to do in a contest prep.
When I just a couple of seconds ago, I was just looking at your face, and I thought okay, I can see that the face actually has gotten leaner, especially here, but maybe it's just because you shaved yourself.
Yeah, this hasn't changed. This is still as hairy as ever. So it should be, unless I've fucked up. It should be as hairy as ever. But yeah, so I've removed you have to remove it. I forget how far you have to go. You have to remove it literally everywhere, but your face, basically. Because I was I can leave it I don't know, around the groin and this, and I'm no, I can't. It's just unreasonable. If something slightly shifts, something pokes out, it's just a bit not great. So yeah, I've been removing hair since they generally recommend like 2 weeks out before your show to like start removing it. And I think that's because skin can get irritated. Like I have some like shaving rash on my leg. I didn't quite do it that soon because I was like busy last week and I was kind of putting it off. So it's been about a week since I removed like hair, and I'm trying to stay on top of that and keep my skin like exfoliated so that I can apply some tan, which is kind of news, I guess, to people listening. And actually when this comes out, I will have competed and people will have probably seen, but I haven't really spoken about this show that I'm doing. So
it's cool, though.
I basically
showing up and then,
sorry,
there's Steve. It's cool though, because you're just showing up, right? And on that note, I know that you're going to talk about it, but maybe you can then also elaborate as to reasons as to why you're doing this show as well.
For sure. Yeah, there's a few people like Andrew Chappelle. I know he's going to be there and I've spoken to him and he knows I'm competing, but I haven't like advertised it as such because I don't know why really. I think it's going to it would add pressure to it. And I want this to just be a warm up. I'm not like, I'm taking it seriously. I have a plan in place, which I guess I can walk through, but it's not like the other two, which were in my mind from the start of prep. So yeah, the reason for doing it was, it essentially came when I was doing my deload diet break. And at the end of that, there was a show and I was like, oh shit, I could have probably like just done this deload and diet break and just kind of like wandered up. And I do okay. I don't know if I wouldn't do my best. Obviously, I'm not in my best condition. But I was like, maybe I should look at what shows are coming up because I'm in a condition. Like I said, I've matched my 2017 condition, so I'm stage ready. I can be better. I was like, why not like use it as a warm up show? See where I'm at. Get under stage lighting. Get a good tan on. Like that tells you everything, right? And getting on stage with other competitors. It's kind of like it's just a warm up. Like it's always good to have a warm up, I think, especially if you're in a position where you're not going to look like, it's not going to set me back. It's just a normal week. So I'm just doing, based off last week's refeeds, I looked the best after 2 days of refeeding, which I don't know, everyone looks different, right? But based off my assessments of my physique, I looked the best after 2 days of refeeding. So I just delayed my refeeds to tomorrow for Friday, Saturday. The show's on Sunday. So I'll be refeeding on like probably 550 grams of carbs on Friday. And then we'll assess. I'll probably send some pics to you as well, Pascal, to see what you think. And then on Saturday, again, it might be that we decide, right, you're still looking a bit flat or whatever. Maybe go to 600. But I'll probably edge to the side of looking flatter versus fuller because I'm not all the way in. So maybe it's like another 500 grams of carbs. And then Friday, Saturday, I have my training sessions. I'm just doing deload sessions basically. So no special changes, just doing my upper body deload, lower body deload. I'll remove Romanian deadlifts just in case that causes any sort of like damage. I won't do any like heavy fly based movements for chest. So effectively today, as of Thursday, will be my last like dieting, digging and hard training day. And then Sunday's a rest day. So I'm just going to go about Sunday as like it's a normal rest day. Or maybe a normal training day because they have prejudging and then the evening show. So that's like my AM and PM workout in a way, which is quite cool. And that's with the BMBF, who I've never competed with before. So I'm kind of excited they're very, very good show lighting. And I've heard very good things about the way they run shows. So I'm excited just to like see that and also gain more experience. Like like in the UK, we have competitors and like I can then have competed with all of the major organizations and know if there's any like, I don't know, little quirks or like we know with the BMBF, they don't like what's it called? The shitting dog, which is where people tuck their glutes forwards. Scared dog. That's the one. Which, yeah, it's kind of like a shitting, no, is it like the shitting dog? No, it's probably not. Yeah, scared dog. So they tuck their glutes under. So you push them forward. They don't like that look. Most people also don't have glutes striated enough to warrant doing that necessarily. So they like the bikini butt kind of Donald Duck, extend your hips look. So that's just one of the quirks. So I've been working on that, making sure I hit my poses like that, which at the moment, like I said, with the condition my glutes are in, there's no point me trying to like show off like this crazy detail because it's just, it hasn't got that rear detail just yet. I think that covers most of it. I don't know if that brings up any questions.
Yeah, I have actually a lot of thoughts. So first and foremost, I find it very, very cool that you decided in doing a show like this, and that this is a true warm-up show, because often you see it like this, that people do the first show, they didn't place or do that well, or as they expected to, and then they are calling it a warm-up show. Or yes. before going into that show, they are saying like, yeah, I can treat this as a warm-up show, right? But in their mind, they want to still place well. This, what you're doing there, is just another testament of that. It shows to me, at least, that you're just loving what it is that you're doing at the moment, and that the shows are just a byproduct where you then are able to do and express what it is that you actually love. Right? You don't really put a lot of emphasis on being your very best at that show, and I think that too many people are too fixated on that, and are very, very much like that approach. And even one of my athletes, he planned on doing a show now that just surprisingly came up because he wasn't aware that locally there's a show around. And this is after you actually having decided to compete at the BMBF this weekend. And I was like, hey, let's do the show. Because I then had in mind the things why you are competing. And I very much like that idea because it takes a lot of the stress away. Especially first-time competitors, they are stepping on the stage. They have no idea about how the show is run, what to expect, the entire process. And when you really go into that show and be like, hey, this is just for me to get my feet wet and to see behind the scenes instead of me being on stage. That is not the main part of the entirety of the show day, but it's more like, once again, warming up for the season. I very much like that. And I don't know if that sparks some new ideas or things that you want to actually talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's nice, like, if it's close and it's financially viable, because it adds up the amount that you end up spending. You're like, oh, the travel costs this, the kind of membership costs this, the show costs this, the tan costs this. You're like, oh, okay. So, but I mean, it's hundreds of pounds, not thousands. So it's not ridiculous. And you're in shape, like, not that often as a natural bodybuilder generally. So I think it's worth it. And yeah, just rocking up and not putting any pressure on it. I also think it's all good and well saying you're going to practice a peak week, or you're going to practice doing your refeeds in a peak week style. But this forces you to actually do that, because it's all good and well you saying it, but then you're like, oh, it's my refeed. I'm going to fit this in, or I'm going to, have my fibers going to be higher. I'm going to eat more veg because I just want some fullness. But if you actually have a show, you're not going to do that. And you're going to be diligent about removing hair. You're going to be diligent about applying a tan. You're going to learn all those things. So I think it's a fantastic idea if you can do a warm-up show and just don't play, don't expect anything. Don't have any expectations. Just go in there and enjoy yourself. And you're going to get feedback probably from the judges that you need it to be harder and tighter and what have you. But it gives you an opportunity also to be like, okay, so I've been practicing my posing. Maybe you've been using a mirror, or you've been looking at your phone a lot. And it's like, can I do this without that? It's like a powerlifting meet. You like squat in front of a mirror, and then you go to the meet and you're like, oh shit, how do I do this again? So it just tests you, and it tests you to know how good you are, essentially, and how much you've got to work on, because you get, like, there's going to be show shoots. Fivos is going to be there, who's like a great photographer. I'm going to get those photos, and they're going to tell me, like, under stage lighting, how soft am I looking, or how hard am I looking? And I think it's just a great little, test the waters. So I think for your guy, I mean, obviously, if you're way out of shape, it's probably demoralizing and not a good idea, and you're not going to get anything from the peaking test. But for him,
he's in good shape.
Exactly,
especially his upper body, lower body, same as you, still needs some work. But this isn't what we're aiming for the first show, right? He's looking good enough to compete.
Awesome.
Right? He wouldn't embarrass himself. That's the thing, right? Of course, you don't want to do the first show and completely make a fool of yourself and demoralize yourself for the upcoming shows. You should be in a position like you are, where it's like, yeah, I'm looking good, and I can probably already compete against others. Because when I'm following sometimes the people that are then being tagged from other federations with like 4 weeks out, and I'm like, make it 14 for your first show, right? Then I assume that you are, I would very much assume that you're not placing last, like, honestly.
Yeah, I mean...
And even if you are, right, when you can say like, okay, I'm looking good. I did it to actually warm up and all that kind of stuff. I think totally all right.
It'll be interesting if I have any different thoughts after doing it. Like, because if you do well, I think that could be a really nice boost of motivation for the rest of the season. But if you do really badly, maybe that could really mess someone up. So I think it's important to realize whenever you do a show, and Joe Jewett's great at saying this, where he's just like, I'm going to go do this. He clearly loves the sport because he doesn't get like upset about where he places. It's just what will be. The cards will lay where they lay. I'll learn from this and I'm going to enjoy myself up on stage, and I can take some silver linings. If I come fourth or if I come first, like I did my best and I only got that placement because of whoever else turned up on the day and whatever else might have happened. So,
and I think you're mature enough. This is one of the things that we've talked about. What is it? 3 or 4 episodes ago. I think your current prep is a true reflection of your maturity and how much you evolved as an athlete, but also, of course, as a person in it for itself. And this prep has, at least for me on the outside, seems super easy and super smooth for you. And it's great to see. Yeah, I think, and the priorities then in that instance and what is important to you has completely shifted as well, because I very much assume that you would be doing what it is that you're doing independent of whether a show is on the horizon or not.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it, is that like my day-to-day routine from my mass to now hasn't changed that much. I'm not like thinking about things to do on the weekend and plan and have fun and stuff. Like I am much more focused on bodybuilding and things, but it's like, well, post-workout, normally I'd sit down and just like, I don't know, chill out a little bit. Now I pose for a little bit instead. Like I plug that in. I'm wearing a weighted vest instead of not wearing a weighted vest, but I'm still eating at the same sort of times. I'm just more, actually it's quite nice to not have as much freedom because it makes me just more structured and get stuff done. So it's funny, some people say they're more productive in prep. I can see why. I can see why you'd be less productive because like you have less resources, you have less energy to go towards it. And I can see that. And I can see that possibly happening as I get deeper and leaner and dieted for longer. But right now, like the structure it gives me, I'm just like, I know I need to get this done. Like having less flexibility forces you to be more efficient. Like, you know, those days you're really busy, you're like, God, I can get so much done if I want to. And I imagine you know that as a father, like you probably think before you were a father, how the fuck am I going to get all the stuff I need to get done? And now you're like, I get this shit done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in that, what it is that you said there, and I think that this is something that we both have come to a conclusion over the past years, maybe also in working with a lot of athletes by now, is I think too many people make it much, much harder on themselves because they are maybe too flexible, or they are seeking too much flexibility because they connotate that with a better lifestyle also. Like the saying of the grass is always greener on the other side. And I think too many people take it too hard, where it's like, all right, when I'm done gaining, then I don't know, I'm getting shredded again and I live a better lifestyle. And then they are cutting and actually nothing has really changed, right? And then they want to actually immediately get out of the cutting phase, finally having more palatable things. And then they are gaining fat too quickly, all that kind of stuff, right? And for me personally, and I think it's the same for you, Steve, it's funny because where we're at right now kind of is very, very similar to how we matured and how easy now dieting has become. Right now, for me personally, I'm now dipping in the 76s. And this is in 2017. This is the time where I nearly ended the prep. And I didn't really carry as much muscle mass as I have right now. And I was already big time struggling by that time. And last year, when I ended the prep due to COVID, I was nearly at that same body weight as well. I ended the prep like last year, also at around 75 kilograms. Right now, I'm here, and nothing really has changed in my life. It's the exact same routine as it was in a gaining phase. I'm kind of eating the same things, just like in different caloric values. I'm not thinking that I'm in a cutting phase, so my performance needs to be actually worse, or I'm probably getting irritable at some point or so, right? I'm just continuing. I'm just moving on without really thinking about what I'm doing too much. And I think that this is super important, because especially the ones, and I know that you have had that as well in the past with athletes, who are then telling you or confronting you of saying like, the feeling that bodybuilding takes over my life and I need to stop coaching. And I'm always like, this is all you. This is all in your head. You make that decision. And if you can't really, or if you don't want to have it take over your life, then taper it down just slightly up to the point where it's more adherent for you and sustainable over the long term, while still having fun and enjoyment in the things that you're doing, while still working towards your goals. And I think I have the feeling, at least for you and I, with now the past years, a more balanced. I don't want to call it balance, but we have found our way of making this work. And not complaining about the things that we're doing, because we have found our recipe of dealing with maybe more challenging times, but it doesn't really feel challenging anymore. I'm walking around the bushes here with what I'm trying to say, but maybe it makes sense. I don't know.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside, you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews, and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description. Yeah, I think you touched on, there's a few things you touched on which I'm hopefully going to remember, but one of them is, wait, where's my brain gone? One of them is, this is what I wanted to say, is kind of like, off-season, like every phase, we enjoy every phase for what it is. Every phase has its own pros, cons, but they kind of balance out after a while. Like the grass isn't greener, it's just there are bits of grass that are greener than other bits in each phase. And on a balance, like they're pretty decent. And what you've described there is, I think we've finally kind of made bodybuilding more of a lifestyle, and we just have a more mature approach. And something you touched on that I thought was super valuable, because it's funny. Went to see Suicide Squad that came out, which is just a complete utter mess of a film. Like it's crazy. It's just like ridiculous. But I was sat there, and there was a point of which I started getting really anxious. I started thinking, I was like, I'm sat here and like I'm, I don't know, sub 10% body fat. Like I've been here for a while. Why do I feel good? Why do I feel okay? Oh my gosh, I have 12 more weeks of prep. I'm going to feel awful. And I started getting this real big like anxiety build up. And I was like, man, I need to like calm myself down, get into the film. And it's as soon as I start thinking too far ahead, or thinking how I should feel, and like worrying about things that ultimately don't matter, I draw myself back to the here and now, kind of that mindfulness, focus on the process, focus on the day to day. Then I feel great. So being here talking to you now, if you kind of, I don't know, like a year ago, put me in my body now, I wouldn't know I was dieting. I'd have like a heavy vest on and be like, what the fuck are you doing? But I wouldn't know any different. I could be any phase right now. So I think it's so important. People, I think the mind can play tricks on people where they're like, oh man, I'm in prep now. So they just like automatically go like super extreme right from the beginning. Cliff talked about it in his seminar, where he has like those people, like he tries to not tell them they're in prep because they ultimately burn out way too soon. And I think it's just important to like try and stay stoic, try and stay in the moment. So for like this show on the weekend, when I think about it, I start getting anxious. I can feel that building up. I'm quite an anxious person, as you know. So I'd have to draw myself back and focus on what am I doing now? What's happening here? What do I need to do today? And then like probably on Saturday is the day where I'm like, that's when I can start thinking about the show, because ultimately it doesn't matter before then. It's like I'm already thinking about the train in the morning that I have to catch. I'm like, what if there's a delay on the tube? What if my train gets delayed or cancelled? What am I going to do? How am I going to get to the show? It's like, you're thinking about problems and you're setting yourself up for like stress and failure before the event itself. Like, do you feel all right now? Are things going how they should be? Are you doing your job today? And if you are, fantastic. You're going to move closer to that goal. Just take every step, like look at just today, finish today. And I think, what you said there, so many people catch themselves where they're like, oh, I should be feeling bad at this point. And then they start feeling bad. And that's a bad position to get into.
Yeah, that was very well put, because I had a very hard time actually putting it into words, because it's more of a, I don't know whether it's a feeling of mine. At least I'm having a very, very hard time putting it into words to make it really understandable of how I view it and what I think maybe other people should be trying. Because I think you put it well in terming it that this is a lifestyle now. And maybe too many people, me myself included, in the past have been using like, this is my lifestyle, jumping the gun, right? Way too early on, and calling what it is that they enjoy in the moment like their lifestyle, and building everything around that, when in reality they have only given it like 1 or 2 years of dedication, which is then most of the time way too short to tell whether you truly enjoy something or not. Right? It's like a honeymoon phase. In the first initial stages, everything is great. Right? And then it can be a false perception for you of like, because it feels great, this is what I love, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I think that's also the problem, because the level of entry for something like PT is so low that many people make then the mistake of thinking, hey, I enjoy training and lifting so much, hence why I want to become a PT. And then they try to do that and lose all of the love for it, if there was a love for it in the first place, or whether maybe it was just like that euphoric feeling in the first place, and once some kind of challenges hit, they immediately give up because they don't really love it. This is just something that they've told themselves. And this is kind of the very funny thing about, like, I don't know, lifestyle or life coaches over on Instagram that send you a message, you take a look at the profile and they are 19 years old. And I'm just like, for you to be a life coach, you need to be, I don't know, this is just an arbitrary number, 40 years old or 50 years. But you need to have experienced something in life, and not just like 15 years in school or 16 years in school, and now for the last 3 years you did, I don't know, just walk around on social media and pretend that you are a life coach. It's kind of the same thing here as well, right? In order to really live that lifestyle and not just say that this is your lifestyle, I think that a lot of time needs to pass, where you need to overcome those challenging and very painful times as well, in order to really figure out, is that something that I truly love in continuing and doing? And I'm not saying that you can't really then continue bodybuilding if you don't really love it, but then taper it back. Once again, it doesn't really have to dictate your entire life. You don't need to think about bodybuilding 24/7, especially not to be accepted by your peers or so. That's not necessary. It's the same as us, right? I'm not watching every single bodybuilding show. I'm not watching every single Olympia or so. All that kind of stuff is not important to me, because what I love is going into the gym and training for myself. And yes, watching those things can be nice, but that doesn't really define me as what I love, and that doesn't really change anything about whether I continue of what it is that I'm doing and all that kind of stuff. I know it led now down a completely different route here, this conversation, but yeah, it was, nonetheless, it was interesting.
It's funny because that's how I used to be with football. Like, I used to love playing football, but I was never, like, I always felt bad and guilty. I was never interested in watching it. Now I like watching it and I don't play it. But back then, I used to, like, I was like, yeah, I support Man U or whatever. But they're like, do you watch the game on the weekend? I was like, no. I played football for like 6 out of 7 days this week because I fucking love playing football. And yeah, I think you're right in that. I don't know. I think people look, again, this is like social media. They might look at certain people, and they might look at like someone like C-Bum or something. And the people you see the most are the ones who are the most extreme. They focus on it the most. Bodybuilding is complete their life. And so I think people think, if to get anywhere near that, I have to commit as much as they are to the process. Whereas actually, those diminishing returns start adding up very quickly, where you get less for every bit you put in. And it's like you said, like, you have those clients who are like, oh, I can't commit to coaching. It's like, but think about, like, you're still going to train, you're still going to eat. Like, what do we need to remove to make this an easier process for you? Because like, it's that law of Pareto, where it's like you get 80% of your results from 20% of the inputs. And it's like, if you hit your protein, hit your calories, you do your training, you get a certain like minimum level of volume, you're getting almost everything. And all the little minutia, which adds up and it's important, matters far, far less. But as you mature as a bodybuilder, as we have, now we're ticking off things that years ago we were struggling to get anywhere near to tick off, like sleep. In my last prep, I was legit waking up 6 times a night to pee. It's like, I don't think I even realized how bad that was. If that was happening now, I'd be ending a prep. I'd be like, fuck, I can't, like, this is too bad. Like, whereas now I'm waking up maybe 2 times at the moment, which is just like crazy. And that's probably partly why I feel so much better as well.
I would also attest it to deliberate practice, kind of, because it's like I said, you still continued training and nutrition, ticking all of the boxes over the past now 4 years, ever since the last prep of yours. So nothing really has changed. Of course, you had a focus. You wanted to improve overall, which is very cool. And this is kind of where the deliberate practice thing comes into play, where you are deliberately trying to improve and challenge yourself. But because you're doing these things on a continuous basis, like each and every single day and week, 365 days out of the year, you're getting very good at them. And it's becoming an automated process that doesn't really stress you any longer. And I think that sometimes maybe we as coaches, and also here sitting here and talking about other people, for example, it's easy for us because we have that entire journey behind us already, and we are way further ahead of them in the marathon, for example. So it can be quite easy. And I don't want to be, patronizing or in that kind of fashion where I'm saying like, I'm superior because X, Y, Z. Absolutely not. I'm dealing with a lot of issues myself and challenges, but there are a lot of things that don't really stress me at all anymore, because we are so far ahead now. And maybe it's the same now for you as well in regards to sleep. You analyze the situation consciously or unconsciously, you change something, and now you're at a point where this has become an automated process that the negative side of things don't really occur, because automatically you knew what you needed to do in order to not let this happen again.
Yeah, I think it's that saying that's like, experience cures anxiety, or experience basically gives you a toolkit for these situations where, like, a weekend away, trying to hit macros on prep in my first prep would have been a nightmare. I would have been like stressing my shit out. Where in my second prep, more manageable, I'd kind of know a bit more what to do. But this time, like, it just wouldn't be a problem for me. I'm not going to turn down going to Charlotte's parents because I'm like 3 weeks out from a show. Like, there's no reason. I can get my training in. I can hit my macros. Like, yeah, it's not going to be perfect. It might impact my scale weight. It might impact my look. But now I know, because I've had experience, that it's going to do those things. And so I guess this is why coaching is so valuable. And that's why, like, experienced coaches are so great, because it's like, well, I've done every little mistake. I've learned every little secret or whatever. And I have a massive toolkit that I can use to help you get through this and it not be a huge stressor for you. Because there's a lot that I look back on. You have to make mistakes to learn. So
exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to say. Some of the things they simply need to go through themselves in order to figure out how it feels and what not to do maybe. But the beauty about then still having a coach by your side is that you can keep those things in perspective and context, so that you're not deviating for like weeks or months in that time frame. Because let's just assume that someone is binging. It can take them a long time to get out of that spiral. Whereas when you have someone by your side who has gone maybe through it themselves or has helped several people actually overcoming that, it can be so much easier, right? So some things people have to experience. That's just a matter of fact. And then learning from that together with your coach, and then moving forward without continuously repeating those mistakes is the way to go, I think.
For sure. I don't know where we want to take this conversation now. I've kind of come to an end, but I wanted to ask you, which I thought was interesting, because you're basically down to the same, like this is like the leanest you've got, or the leanest body weight wise you've got to. What is have you got a goal in mind, or are you thinking like, actually something I was going to bring up was I can see the appeal for Jeff Alberts now of like an open-ended, just long prep, where he just like, if he needs to have like a refeed for a couple of days because of like a school thing, he does that. Yeah. Like he can take his time, because in reality, he's probably got the muscle mass he's gonna have very close to. So him having a year-long prep makes complete sense. I can almost see it, because it's just like, oh, I can dip out here, I can come back in, I can pick a show here, and it can be like low stress. Whereas for like a younger athlete, that probably isn't most ideal, because they have lots of muscle that they're potentially not gaining during that period of time. Anyway, I was going to ask you, what's kind of your thoughts going forward from here?
Yeah. So right now, as I already mentioned, I'm sitting at around 77 kilograms. Had a couple of weigh-ins very close to 77. And then yesterday, another higher weigh-in, but somewhere around there I'm sitting, right? And the last two preps, I was at around 75. When I then, as I once again already mentioned, 2017 due to the circumstances, and then 2020 due to COVID, unfortunately, stopped the prep. And I'm getting very, very close to that point, right? 75 kilograms. And right now I'm still feeling absolutely brilliant, to be honest. And that makes me just consider just continuing things up until the point where I may feel some of the negative adaptations. Nothing drastic though. I don't want to push it too far, because I also don't think that it has any kind of inherent value pushing it too far if there's nothing to be gained out of that. So if you have something like a photo shoot, for example, yeah, sure, of course, push it, right? But something like that is not really on my radar, and it's kind of refreshing to not feel pressured, to not have anything on the horizon where I'm also putting kind of pressure on myself, and I'm just like enjoying the ride at the moment. And right now I also wouldn't know what to do otherwise, to be honest, because it feels good to be dieting at the moment. It gives me structure. I enjoy that. Right now have a good groove running in regards to then the nutrition. Training is still feeling fine as well. And also, let's be honest, it's just fun going into the gym and seeing yourself in the mirror, and things are just like shaping up and more details pop out. It's nice. It's a nice feeling, and no one else can say anything about that. And because my performance isn't really dropping or anything alike, even in some workouts, it's still improving. I'm just at a point where I'm thinking like, I will just continue the journey, and maybe I was considering pushing it down to a level where I haven't been in since like maybe 2013 or so, like maybe pushing towards 70 kilograms and just see where I'm at that point. Just out of curiosity. It could, I would very much assume that it is, but as long as I'm feeling good, as long as my performance is still all right in the gym as well, I don't see any reason as to why not going there, to be honest. Of course, with the premise of like it not negatively impacting other areas of my life as well, such as family, work, and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, because I'm feeling so good and relaxed about the entire situation, this is definitely something that is on my mind. I can say that for sure. Whether I'm going there, I really, really don't want to put a stamp on it and say like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do, because there's no reason to right now of saying something like that. What I can say is I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now, and I will continue doing that for as long as I enjoy it.
I think this is a question I've been asked quite a lot recently on Instagram, is like, is there a maximum amount of time you should diet for? And I think what you just described there is the perfect sort of answer for that. If you're the point at which your training performance is starting to dip consistently and systemically, the point where you're feeling diet fatigue, like across the board in terms of your libido's not really very good or non-existent. You've got quite high food focus. Your energy levels are low. Your sleep is disrupted. When those start, like you might have 1 or 2, and then once it becomes like a certain number, that's where it's like you should probably stop. Like as much as you're like, so long as you've got a lot of stuff in check in your life, but even if you haven't, it's probably a good stopping point. And that's going to differ person to person, level of leanness. And I think for you, it makes sense. Why not take it to that, like almost like your lower end, like settling body fat? See where that is. And that'll give you, I think for you, like a ton of confidence to then be like, oh, I can get this lean, feel good. Yeah. It's not going to be that big a journey to stage then. Assuming do you still have ambitions to compete, Pascal?
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's coming from a different perspective now. Because in the past, I think when I'm really honest with myself, I always felt a little bit pressured because of the position that I'm in. Of like, everyone is then saying like, if you are a bodybuilding coach, then you need to have stepped on stage as well. And if I'm then reflecting upon what has happened over the past years, especially like 2017, when I take a look at my physique and also my circumstances, my lifestyle and everything, I was definitely not ready to step on stage, even from a muscular perspective. And that is hardly ever the case. Many, many people can even step on stage with just a decent base, right? But I didn't even have that, to be honest. And this is something that I would have never been able to admit to just a couple of years back or so. And right now, this kind of ties into what we've already talked about here in this podcast, that I matured in the way that I look at training. I am really at a point where this is my lifestyle. There's no question about me not going to the gym or going to the gym. I'm just doing it right now. I'm not thinking really about me dieting. This is the structure that I have in front of me, and it's just something that I'm doing right now without also here putting any kind of pressure on myself or giving myself a hard time. I just enjoy what I'm doing right now. And I think that I would love that more people, especially the ones that are listening to that, are in that position, because it doesn't really exclude you being ambitious or so, especially when it comes to stepping on stage. Because I think that many, many people think that once they are laying off the drive and all that kind of stuff, they are not bodybuilders anymore, right? But I really do believe that the best people most of the time are, of course, the ones who are very, very committed. But we as natural bodybuilders, it's more of a game of improving ourselves. And that's why I think, first and foremost, you really should enjoy the journey. And I think that maybe it's too far for me, or I'm leaning myself out the window too far in saying that I think too many people are lying to themselves. I'm saying this because I had it myself, I think, where I lied to myself that I love it more than I actually did. And over the years, I have gotten to the point where I'm actually loving it more and more so. I know it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but in the past, I very much dedicated a lot of time and effort to it. I really thought this is my lifestyle. I really thought that this is what I want to do, but maybe I didn't really want to do it. Maybe I did want to do it for the wrong reasons. Also here to maybe get the appeal of my surrounding or environment or so. Maybe I wanted to be someone that I really didn't identify with. Maybe I didn't want to do or be someone else. And I could imagine that this is what a lot of other people are doing as well, saying that they love it because maybe they are not feeling comfortable in their own skin. Maybe they have an issue with their own personality. Maybe they want to flee and becoming someone else and trying to tell that to themselves of like, yeah, I love what I'm doing, is easing their mind or so. I deviated once again, and I'm very, very sorry for that. But the thing that the conclusion here is that right now I feel, and I hate that term, as balanced as I have ever been in my life in regards to my private life and also my career endeavors and also my athletic endeavors. They are moving all closer together instead of spreading more apart. And I think that's the best way in actually saying it. All of those things should move closer together over time because the center is you. That's your identity. And I have the feeling that in the past, it was just so far apart from another, and maybe sometimes even moving more to the outer boundaries instead of closer to the inner circle. And right now, I'm very, very much close to the inner circle. It can always be optimized, but that's where I'm at right now. And this is why in the future, I'm still having ambitions of stepping on stage. But I think this is then really just coming from a place because I'm lean, because I'm curious about it, and because I'm doing bodybuilding. And for no other reason, not because I think it's a great thing for the business, which it definitely would be anyway, but that's not the driver. Not because I want to be appreciated by other people because I finally stepped on stage. I would really solely do it for myself first and foremost. And it took me a long time getting there. And I think that this is probably even the best approach, because then you are just, once again, probably having the best time of your life. And isn't that why or how it should be? I think so.
I love that. I know it might have taken you a while to get to the end message there, but I think it was worth that kind of taking us through that journey of your, especially as I know your preps from previous, and getting insights into your thought process behind like feeling like you needed to compete and like kind of doing it for the wrong reasons in a way previously, and that ultimately leading to not being successful. Although I think there are lots of other reasons why it wasn't, like there was a lot of things that just got in your way that meant you couldn't. But I think this time round, you're approaching it from a place of like, it's bodybuilding is like the ultimate selfish sport, and taking it to stage is the ultimate selfish act. So if you don't truly want to do it for yourself, just from a personal reason, then it's really hard to justify like letting other things or like prioritizing it in that sense. But if you've got to a point where actually my bodybuilding, and it comes down to that saying of like bodybuilding should complement your lifestyle, it comes down to that where you said they're all intersecting now because you've got a good way of like balancing things and you know kind of your values and what your priorities are. And I think that's the same for me. Like you said, for what I'm doing, like it's definitely going to benefit the business. It probably already is. And yeah, it's getting me interaction and people like giving me props. But ultimately, it's for me, because if I don't enjoy this, I really wouldn't do it, because it's extreme. You need extreme consistency and dedication. And I love that. And I love that it builds those characteristics. But ultimately, the same reason I stood on stage for the first time in 2014, that wasn't for any other objective, but for me. And to prove to myself that I'd recovered from my accident and that I could do a contest prep, one of the most extreme things to my body, and come out the other side. So I was on a podcast yesterday and I was asked, like, why have you stayed natural? Like, well, I'm just surprised, especially because your experience on TRT and like why didn't you just decide to go to the enhanced side at that point? Because you'd already kind of had that. And I was like, it just was never even a thought to me. I just love the process of training and nutrition and going and pushing myself. And I've consistently just done and lived that journey for like over a decade now. And it's led me to the stage here and there. And it's slowly become more of a viable option. And I think the same is happening for you. It's just your journey was a little bit different. And just to the thought of you stepping on stage and just like it just makes me so proud to think like when you finally like make it there, I think it will just be such a, like all of it, the stepping on stage is not the thing that matters. It's all of that work you've done beforehand that's got you to the point where you could. That's what matters. So yeah, it's really cool to see and hear.
Yeah, I think it would also make me very emotional then at some point, because there were so many things leading up to that point then, and also just like the development of myself. And this is what the Improvement Season podcast, aka Revive to Stage, actually kind of originated from, to record and have everything locked as a podcast for our entire journey. And when you look back, and maybe some of the OGs are still around and listening here, the last 4.5 years by now, I mean, you can take a look at, it's crazy, each and every single week of our last 4 years, and just listen to us and what we went through, who we are now, who we were back then. It's crazy. And also then to me, to just like see how many, or what has changed and how you changed as a person yourself as well. And sorry as well also that I had such a hard time also there expressing what I'm thinking in that instance. But some of these things I've never really truly spoken out loudly, right? And that's why it's then so hard to really gather all of the proper words for actually then putting it out there and making someone else understand what is going on up here, right? Because I never even said it out loudly to myself. People are very, very good at kind of speaking, but very bad at thinking. And for me, sometimes it's the other way around. I'm just staying in my own head and then trying to express what is going up in my head. Sometimes very, very hard for me. And there, I really hope that some people, I don't know, get what I'm saying, know where I'm coming from. And for some other people, it may sound absolutely confusing and that nothing that I even said made any kind of sense. And I'm sorry to some extent, but at the same time, this is, once again, just what is going through my mind and what is then also probably going to happen in the future. I'm just super grateful for where I'm at right now. And even though that the last couple of years had their ups and downs, I am where I'm right now. And I think that I'm in the best spot I've ever been in my entire life. And a lot has to do with bodybuilding, to be honest, because it taught me so much more than just like building muscle mass or losing fat or so. And I'm very excited for then what the next 10 years, 20 years will bring.
And that's like bodybuilding. People look at it from the outside and they just see the aesthetic. They see the appearance of it. They don't see the massive amount of introspection that you need when you're doing the thing. Like you really think about like how are you responding to things, how are you feeling in every phase. So I think it's one of those things. It just builds a lot of character, and it's really cool to see that development. And I'm thinking, right, Pascal, he's going to get down nice and lean. He's going to go into a couple of 2 to 3 mesocycle mass. Then he's going to start prep 2020, 2022, and hit up the stage.
And then stop it again. Oh, boy.
But that's like to think that you're getting down to those levels of condition. And I can speak, I mean, they could probably listen to the podcasts from that time. And no doubt both of us were like dragging our heels and like talking very slowly. But if they listen now, they're probably like, man, you don't sound different to when like you're in an off season. You don't sound like you're dieting. And like for me, a few days out from a show and you basically down to that level of conditioning. And I spent time with you then, and like you're just like, it's like you're a different person almost. And you do change, like when you get deep into like the dark places of a prep, like you change as a person. You could become a little bit like, not your usual self. And no one likes being there. It's not nice actually when you're there at all. And sometimes you don't even know that you're there until you come out of it and you're like, oh damn, that's what I was like. Yeah. So it's super great that you're in such a strong position now and just matured so much as a bodybuilder. Even if you haven't competed, I still call you, and like people are like, oh, can I be a bodybuilder if I haven't competed? I'm like, yeah, you can, because you're doing everything but the final step, which is such a short period of time.
Same way around, buddy. I said it so often. I'm so proud of having been by your side for over the last couple of years and see you grow to the person that you are. And for me personally, it also gives me confidence overall to have walked that entire journey together, but also have gone through the struggles that I went through. And still the things that I would say the scars that I'm wearing, it still gives me confidence maybe it's just a byproduct of becoming older and giving less fucks about what other people have to say and being more confident about your own knowledge and experiences. But also there, it's just like I am much more confident than I was like a year ago, way more confident than I was back in 2017, because I've seen so much more, experienced so much more. And of course, then the entire knowledge is also much, much higher than it was back then. And also there, once again, I can only imagine what it must be like then in 5 years from now also. I'm very excited for that time, actually, and not scared at all, because I do believe that only positive things will then come out of that, even if negative things happen along the way. That's my perception and really my belief when it comes to going through a journey, experiencing shitty times, but always kind of coming out stronger, unless it really shatters you deeply and you're just like a complete mess.
You almost finished with like the greatest line there. Revive stronger. You revive stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
The journey.
It is. Yeah. I think we have gotten a little bit philosophical in this episode. Once again, maybe it made sense to some, maybe it didn't. Independent of that, I would very much appreciate if you leave a like, a comment maybe below. Maybe you have gone through similar experiences. And maybe what I would very much like to see and also hear is how you as a listener and also athlete have evolved over the past couple of years. Maybe you worked that journey together with us since the last 4.5 years. Maybe you are a true OG. Leave it in the comment section below, and I would very much like to hear your guys' experience and also journey. And other than that, Steve, I guess next week we are then going to talk about the BNBF and the results and everything. Wishing you a lovely show. Yeah. And take the trophy with you home.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Flor. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people. But each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.